Hello everyone, my name is Jordan, also known as Minx, and today I want to show you guys how to create backing drums. What backing drums allow you to do is to really make your main drums come out a little bit more clean and get the rhythm moving for the dance floor, so that way people will start moving their feet towards your music. The drums are a key part in any music. It can either be drums that are synthetic, acoustic, or whatever, just any type of drums. Those are going to be your main motors for this track. So right now I have a very basic beat going on with my initial drums. And as you can see, they're rounded off with some other samples that I have in here that don't naturally come in with the kick or the snares. I'm going to show you how to create very good backing drums, so that way when you're ready to start making a drum beat, it will sink in nice and deep, and it'll fit in the mix quite well. Anyways, this is a demo example of the drums I have going in the foreground, but for the background I'm going to add in some hand drums and things like that. So let's get a listen to where we should take the drums in this case towards. So these are my main drums. Alright, so the first thing I want to do is I want to take my tempo up to 140, and then inside of a blank instance of Reason, this new document, I'm going to throw in a combinator. And what's cool about Reason is you can copy and paste instruments from other tracks in here. And there we have it. We can play around with it and mess with it. I'm not sure if you can do this with other DAWs, but it's really handy in Reason. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to focus on these drums and these drums only. So what I'm going to throw in here is a blank instance of Kong. I'm going to open up drum patch number 1, and I'm going to change it to a nano sampler. I'm then going to go into my Kong patches, my Kong sounds and samples, and I'm going to throw percussion onto this. And I'm going to highlight clavs 1 through 3. Hit OK. And we'll call this clav pluck. So now that I have these samples, what I can do is I can individually edit these. So I notice sample 2 is a little bit lost when we hit the note. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to hit edit sample, and it shows us this waveform of the sample. So I'm going to take from 1 all the way to the end, and I hit fade out a couple times. What I'm doing is I'm shortening the sample, so that way we get a nice clean hit. So it's not dragging on for too long. So watch, I'll go back. I'll go back all the way. Now if I play this, it drags on for a little bit more. So it's best to have your samples as clean and as short-handed as possible, meaning as short as possible but still retaining all the roots and harmonics without messing it up entirely. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go on my drum rack number 2. We're going to mess with all the effects at the end. So for the back drums for this second sample, I'm thinking maybe I'll go with some electronics. So I'm going to throw a couple sounds in here, and I want to see which works and which doesn't for this track. That electric bongo, that sounds good. So I'm going to add another layer and add another sample and try and find something that is like that or totally different. that minimalism is perfect. So now we have this electric minimal pluck. And I want to change that first sample we had to something else. I'll use the clang. It sounds better to me. There we go. But it's a little bit lost. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to edit the sample. And I'm going to take from 1 to 2 and fade that out. And I'm going to change from the middle of 0.5 or a little bit 2/3. I'm sorry, 1/3 of 0 to 0 to there. Now I hit fade out. So that way I get a much cleaner sound coming from this. I'm gonna hit normalize a couple times and crop it. So now we have this sound. It's a little bit shorter, but I'm just going to do the effects on this a little bit later. So for drum 5, I want to do something a little bit different. So for drum 5, I'm going to make it more like a chord stab or something like that. So I'm going to go into found sounds and browse in here and see what I can find. That orca sounds pretty good, but then again, we're not making a hip-hop track. Rubber extrusion sounds pretty cool, and I'm gonna add another found sound onto this. That slicer cheese will work nicely. So what I'm going to do with the rubber extrusion is I'm going to edit the sample, and I'm going to take basically a lot of these down. So to do that, I'm going to highlight the areas that sound the most drowned out, so to say. I'll hit fade out a couple times and fade out some of the lower notes. So that way when we get a chance, it will just actually just play this little blip noise. Yeah, there we go. So it's time to crop this and normalize it. And it sounds kind of like a growl to me. I want to do that with slicer cheese. Slicer cheese is still a little too loud, so I'm just going to take 0 to 2. Yeah, from 0.2 all the way on out, I'm going to fade that out dramatically. And from 0.3 on up, crop it, normalize it, and I'm going to take it down more. And I hit. So now that we have some of the backing sounds, and I just want to do this as kind of like a short demo, I'm going to mess with the effects. So for clav and percussion, this first patch, I'm going to choose filter. I want to take the filter down to 43 and set it to a high pass. And for the compressor that I want to add for FX2, I want to turn up the amount and turn up the release on this to 38. So it's a little bit there. For electric minimal, I'm going to change the filter to a low pass and set it to 102. And I'm going to do that with the compressor as well. Turn it up, hit it again. It's a little bit there. For drum 5, I'm going to rename this as crisp. And for the crisp hit, I'm going to set the compressor on it first. Turn up the gain and turn up the amount. And for this, I want to make it a little bit more stingy. I want to make it a little bit more saturated. So I'm going to throw in an overdrive. And I'm going to turn up the drive and hit a few notes and see what kind of sounds we can get from this. I'm also going to mess with the models, the size, and the reso. Okay, so I set the overdrive to 127, the size all the way up, and the reso all the way back, and I set it to type D. So that's going to do it for our backing drums. What I'm going to do next is create a little bit of atmosphere. So I'm going to take a blank instance of the RV7000, turn the decay to 7, the dry to 15, and I'm going to throw on the pulverizer, throw on a stereo imager, and finally a maximizer. And so I'm going to turn up the squash as I hit a few notes. I notice that crisp is a little blah. So I'm going to go into rubber extrusion, hit edit sample. It's right here. So I want to take that and I want to fit it out a bit. So 1 or 2 hits, 1 hit on there, save. I'm still getting a little bit of the back end, so I want to turn down the makeup gain a bit and go into slicer cheese, edit that sample. Must be some out here. Phase that out. Yep. And there we have a better sample. Anyways, back to the pulverizer. I'm going to turn up my dirt to 76. And I noticed for the pulverizer, it dirties up everything. So I kind of don't want that. So I'm going to hit back and I don't see any separate out. So we're just going to not mess with the dirt for now. And turn on spread. Set the tremor spread to 19% for the volume. And set up the rate to probably about 1.25. To give it a little bit more widening. Go down to the stereo imager. Put the low band on mono all the way down and set the high band to about 29 for the high. For the X over, you don't need to mess with that, so just leave it. Take it off limiter, put release to auto, turn on soft clip, and set the soft clip amount to 127. So now what I'm going to do with this combinator is I'm going to highlight all of it, hit Control X, or Command C, or right click it and do cut devices and tracks. And then I'm going to bring over my other sampler, my other track, and paste it in here. And there we go. We got, let's go back in here, paste devices and tracks. So that's the drums, paste it in here. And there we go. So I want to call this backing drums. And there we have it. Oh. Your very own backing drums. I'm sorry this tutorial is kind of a little bit crazy. It's hard to kind of show the process of really getting those fine, nice sounds in here without corrupting the whole track. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to go back in here and pitch everything up 6 semitones. So let's see. Every 100 is, let's see. Every 100 is 1 semitone. So that's going to be around 600 semitones, 610. For the electric main, do that for 610. Boop, 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 boop. 629 should be fine. And the crisp, set that to 610 as well. So there we have it. Kind of your own miniature sounds. So there we have it. And what I'm going to show you guys in the next track will be a little bit different. So stay tuned for that. Have a good one. Thanks for watching. Peace and chill.